Good morning, everybody. Today is July 21st, 2020. I had to think about that for a sec. Hope everyone's day is off to a good start. Today I'm going to answer a question that came up in one of the AMAs, one of the Ask Me Anythings that I do every Thursday in the Linchpin Athletics private Facebook group. But I answer whatever questions get upvoted the most. But this one question was such a great question that I figured it would take the majority of the time in the AMA, so I shelved it to come back to, and so we shall come back to it today. So Anne, I'm finally getting to your question. I apologize that it took probably 2 weeks. Anne's question is about percentage training. I really like it. I think it's a fantastic question. Hopefully people benefit from it. Here's her question from Anne. Do you think prescribed weights in a workout should be a percentage of the person's body weight as opposed to just a set weight for all males and for all females? Being a smaller 100-pound female, getting more than my body weight overhead is considered one heck of a good achievement. But for a female that's 150 pounds, such as her friend, lifting 120 pounds over her head isn't such of a big deal. Or is this just a lack of strength on my part? Awesome question. It's a rabbit hole. I love a good rabbit hole. So we've got time, we've got a fresh cup of coffee, so we're going to dance a little bit around the rabbit hole. So, first of all, I think it starts with this. Overwhelmingly, CrossFit does just set a prescribed loading for whatever particular workout it happens to be, other than a heavy day. And you do the weight if you can. Yesterday, for example, Linchpin, we did full snatch, squat snatch, Isabel, 135 pounds for men, 95 pounds for women. Set loading, classic CrossFit workout, not a percentage. Then, if you do a heavy day, 7x1 deadlift, to a degree, the weight's not set on that because everyone's going to lift what they can safely lift. So the heavy days kind of work themselves out. Everyone gets to whatever they can safely and appropriately challenge themselves with, and they back off. So the trouble, if it ever does come up, comes up on the other days, the mixed modality days where there's a set loading in there. And percentage training, prescribing a percentage of your 1 rep max to use whatever that loading, it's effective. I mean, let's be honest, it works. But here's the thing. It doesn't work for all people in all situations. And I think since it is neat and tidy, instead of just saying something vague such as scale is appropriate, you can say use this percentage, and then I think that's easier for people to accept and to digest because scale as appropriate is vague, right? Whereas if I just say use 60% of your 1 rep max, you're like, done, clean. And it might get you close, but in no way, shape, or form means that 60% of your 1 rep max in that workout is really the best loading for you, or the most appropriate loading for you. It may work for your friend and your other friend and not for you. Maybe you should be at 55%, somebody else should be at 70%. Some people can move a relatively high percentage of their 1 rep max over and over and over again quite quickly. Other people can't. So again, unfortunately, while percentage training is wonderful, and actually, if you scroll through Linchpin, you'll see we do obviously heavy days, 5x5 back squats, 7x1 deadlift. We do workouts that are classic CrossFit style that have just prescribed loadings to them. But then we'll also put in workouts every now and then that have percentage work in there. And I'm already getting off track, for what I had in my head is like a nice way to explain this. Because in exposing, it's my opinion anyway, in exposing the athlete to all of those different sorts of stimuluses, I want to develop not only a fit athlete, but an intelligent athlete. And an intelligent athlete, through exposing themselves to all those different styles of workouts, will start to learn what different weights feel like. We'll start to learn what different percentages feel like. We'll start to learn what those heavy days feel like. And as they experiment with all of them and scale as needed, they will develop their own little internal database of what is or is not appropriate for them, given the movement type, given what the intended stimulus is supposed to be that day. Is it supposed to be just a short and sharp, just really spicy workout? Is it a moderate time domain, or is it a day to grind? And all of those have their part. And circling back to Anne's question, to a degree in my mind, while percentage training does have great benefit and is useful, it is still just a question about scaling. So, she gives this example of she's a 100-pound female, getting 120 pounds over her head is really tough and challenging. Not so challenging for her 150-pound female friend. So should she get a lighter loading overhead, or should she just improve her strength? And it's kind of yes to both. Because the same thing could be said if we're taking these athletes as, the claim that she's making is in general, the smaller athlete is not as strong with the barbell as the heavier athlete is. This heavier athlete could probably ask me the very same question on a day that comes up like Cindy or Mary or Nate or 150 burpees for time or some sort of other workout that is primarily not barbell intensive, but it involves moving your body weight around planet Earth for a certain number of repetitions. This heavier athlete could be like, look, this isn't fair at all. I've got a friend, she's a 100-pound athlete. She doesn't mind doing Cindy or burpees, she can do them all day long. I weigh 150 pounds, this doesn't seem fair. Should I do a quote-unquote percentage of the workout? And since there's not a loading, you can't scale your own body weight, then what you could probably do on something like Cindy is instead of making it 5 pull-ups, 10 push-ups, and 15 air squats for 20 minutes, you could make it 3 pull-ups, 6 push-ups, and 9 air squats for 20 minutes, or for 15 minutes, or for 10 minutes. So at the end of the day, the two sides of the same coin, we are still coming back to scaling. So, okay, let's get back on track here. I got myself down a rabbit hole. I apologize for that. So, Anne's question, percentage training. Yes, they have a history of being effective, and we're interested in things that are effective. Again, that's why we use them from time to time. But the other side of the coin is, for decades now, CrossFit has been also proven as potentially the most effective strength and conditioning program on the face of the earth, generally not using them. So there's a bit of a conundrum. When I say that workouts using prescribed loading such as CrossFit have been effective, and people are fitter than they ever have been before, that is through constantly varied function moves at high intensity. However, I make the assumption that somebody who went down that road of pursuing the prescribed loadings in CrossFit, doing constantly varied function moves at high intensity, that they're pursuing success, that they followed the proper progression of mechanics, consistency, and then intensity, right? Learning the movements, learning how to do them properly over and over again, even as you increase the gas pedal a little bit, and then only then do you add intensity. Then intensity, we know, is relative intensity, relative to the individual's physical and psychological tolerances. And I say that because that intensity piece is at the heart of this question regarding percentage training. I think it's safe to say that what they are concerned about is, if intensity is so key to getting fitter, faster, and stronger, and if I'm suffering through a loading that is potentially a bit too heavy, what I am in essence doing is slowing everything down, resting a tremendous amount, thereby blunting my intensity, and am I therefore blunting my results? And had I not done that, had I just had a percentage assigned for that workout, would that have allowed me to move quicker, therefore not blunted my intensity, therefore not blunted my results, thereby getting me fitter faster? And I hope this isn't confusing, but the question is, yes, but what that's called is just smart scaling. So if you are struggling with some sort of weight that's just too challenging and it's just beating you down and slowing you down far more than is appropriate, yes, you should have used a significantly lower weight to keep moving. But it's not exactly that simple, which is why this is such a fun rabbit hole, which is why I couldn't do it the other day during just a simple Ask Me Anything, which is why I needed to dedicate an entire video to this. And now this gets back to what I said earlier, where the solution to say scale is needed is unsatisfying because it comes across as a bit vague, but it only is vague until you become a student of the game, until you become a student of CrossFit, why we do what we do, and then scaling, then the term scale as needed, it doesn't seem vague anymore, and as a matter of fact, it gives you the knowledge. Knowledge is power in life, in fitness, the whole 9 yards, and that knowledge of knowing how to scale effectively will allow you to scale or modify darn near any workout for almost any gear, any athletic capacity, any environment that you find yourself in. And when you're a beginner, that can seem a bit overwhelming. And how do I get this knowledge, and where does it come from? And these people that have been around CrossFit for years just seem to know that they shouldn't have used 135 for that workout, and they used 115, and they just knew that 21:15:9 was a bit too much because they struggle with handstand push-ups. So they did 15:12:9, but how did they know? Well, they knew through experimentation, they knew through diving into the CrossFit Journal, they knew through listening to podcasts and videos such as this, which are just available for free. And then that video that I post every single day that explains the workout of the day on the Linchpin private track is a small little just educational piece. We talk about the workout, we talk about the intention behind it, and then we give metrics that should be used as to whether or not, if you can do this and this, then yeah, it might make sense for you to approach this workout prescribed. If you can't do X amount of reps at this loading, etc., then it doesn't seem to me that a prescribed workout makes sense for you today. I would recommend doing the scaled option. We dive into the scaled options, and you might not be able to watch one of those videos in which I walk through all those things and be a master on scaling. But if you watch every video for the week, and then the next week, and then you get a month under your belt, and then you get 2 months and 3 months, it will not take too long until, and you're working out every day, feeling this with your body, logging the data, it will not take very long before you can look at a workout, hear what the intent is, what the prescribed stimulus is, what the recommended times are, and right off the bat know, yep, I can hit that one out of the park just as it is, or today's a day I'm going to have to put the ego aside and modify the workout, be it the rep scheme or the loading, in some way, shape, or form. And that all just comes with time and patience, and I know that most of us could use a bit more patience. And I've seen this happen. I've seen this improvement of the knowledge happen, which has filled me with pride. So now, in our private Facebook group, somebody will post a question about, hey, I'm new to the group, the workout today is this, my concern is this, should I modify it in some way, shape, or form, my 1 rep max is this, and maybe I don't see the question for a few hours, right? I'm doing something else, I come in and I check, and there'll be 5 or 6 members that have answered that newer member's question, and the advice or recommendations that they're giving are spot on. And I can see the knowledge base improving and the answers getting more sophisticated as the months go by, because everyone that's there is immersing themselves daily in not only the physical fitness routine, but in watching those videos, so their knowledge base is improving and it's getting better and better. So yes, you can do it, and then you can be your own best advocate. And like I said, no matter where you are, if you're in a hotel gym, somewhere with no gear whatsoever, you can find a way to make it happen, because you'll have the knowledge between your ears, even if somebody didn't tell you precisely how to scale it or precisely the percentage to use. So let's take an example. Classic workout. Diane, named workout, 21:15:9, the deadlift, 225 pounds for men, 155 for women, paired with the handstand push-up. Beautiful couplet, weightlifting and gymnastics. So let's talk, the guy's loading there, 225 pounds. Let's say we get athlete A. Athlete A is just rugged, strong, capable, fit athlete, beats most people in the gym. I looked up some data on Beyond the Whiteboard, and the 80th percentile for Diane is 4 minutes and 40 seconds. So what 80th percentile means is you beat 80% of the people who did Diane if you got it 4 minutes and 40 seconds. That only 20% beat you. So you're phenomenal. You're 8 out of 10. So let's say this person does it in 4 minutes and 40 seconds. They've got a 450-pound deadlift. So for Diane, with a 225 deadlift, that's only 50% of this athlete's 1 rep max. So chances are pretty good that he ripped through the deadlifts, and it's the handstand push-ups that he had to manage in some sort of way, and broke each set up into 2 or 3 smaller sets, rested as he needed, etc., etc. Finishes in 4 minutes and 40 seconds. And again, had a 450-pound 1 rep max deadlift, so Diane is only 50% of the 1 rep max. Athlete B, this gentleman only has a 315-pound deadlift. Workout of the day is still Diane. So if we crunch some numbers, that's a 71%. That's 71% of athlete B's 1 rep max compared to 50% for athlete A. So that's a huge, huge difference. And so now the question becomes, is Diane too heavy for athlete B that has a 315-pound deadlift? And you can have your own answer on that, right? Is it too heavy? This is, again, there's so many rabbit holes here. I'm trying not to make this a 75-minute talk, I promise. What does too heavy mean? If too heavy means unsafe, then yes, then it's too heavy. If that athlete cannot move that barbell for that number of repetitions without their mechanics deteriorating, we do not want them lifting that weight. So they need a lower weight. But what if it's not too heavy? They just would have to slow down. So that athlete B could do Diane at 225, and it would be safe, but it would be slow. Okay, well, what does that mean? I looked up beyond the whiteboard, and the 25th percentile, which means 75% of the people who did Diane beat you, you're in the bottom quarter, is around 10 minutes, okay? Over double the time of athlete A. So let's say you're going to be in the bottom quarter of people posting times for Diane, but you were never unsafe. But since it's a bit of a heavier weight for you, it's a higher percentage of your 1 rep max, and it's challenging, you didn't rip through the deads unbroken like athlete A did. You had to do that set of 21, you pulled 8 of them, and then you rested for a minute, and then you pulled 7, and then you rested for 30 seconds, and then you pulled 6. I think that gets you to 21. You did 8, 7, 6. And then you blasted the handstand push-ups, and you came back for the set of 15, and you didn't just rip 15 unbroken, you had to do 6, 5, 4 to get yourself to 15, and etc., etc. And when it's all said and done, you're about twice as slow as athlete A. You came in around 10 minutes. Now this begs the question, should that athlete have used 50% of their 1 rep max, which is exactly what athlete A used, and was it too heavy for them? 50% of their 1 rep max would be 157 pounds if they had a 315-pound deadlift, and it seems like they would have moved a heck of a lot quicker. But this is why it's part, science and part art. So if we had athlete B use 50% of their 1 rep max, they used 157 pounds in the deadlift, and they just could rip it. And since they used such a lighter weight, they came in right around athlete A's time, 4 minutes and 40 seconds or something like that. Don't get me wrong, they had a great day in the gym. They pulled deadlifts, they got a good sweat going, they did handstand push-ups, they were breathing hard, they worked their posterior chain. That's fantastic. But is that potentially exactly what that athlete needed? What is it that's holding athlete B back? They struggle a bit with a heavier weight, right? So if they were allowed to appropriately struggle and appropriately challenge themselves with that loading, and they just came in around the 10-minute mark, but they were never unsafe, well, kind of what did they get? In some degree, they got a heavy day at a high heart rate, which is improving them exactly in the area that they need improvement, which is trying to bump up that deadlift. Now, it could also be somewhere in the middle, right? We could play this game 50 different ways. Maybe 157, 50% of the 1 rep max is far too light. But maybe 225 is actually too heavy for them. Their form would break down over time, or over what's a total of 45 repetitions through 21:15:9. So maybe 185 in the bar is the right call for them. Maybe 205 is the right call for them. Maybe they should stick with the 225 pounds, but the 21:15:9 is too much. So they're going to modify the deadlift reps to 15:12:9 or to 12:9:6 or to whatever they want. But they're okay with the handstand push-ups, so those will stay at the prescribed rep ranges. So again, in any one of those modifications, if I had 12 people in front of me, there's a chance that each one of them would need a slightly different Diane to be just what they needed. One could be prescribed, one could be reducing the repetition range, another one could be doing it at 205, etc., etc., etc. And so that's why we could get ourselves into the same problem if all we did was say, hey, Diane today, 21:59 of a 50% deadlift and a handstand push-up. 50% may not fit for everybody. Somebody might need 70%, somebody might need 60%, or 50% might be too light to help athlete B actually get stronger, which is why, again, I circle back to something which takes a bit longer to develop, and that is your just cerebral knowledge of being a student of the game of CrossFit, a student of the game of fitness, why we do the workouts we do, what the intended stimulus to the body is, and then being able to scale appropriately based upon what you need. So that's that. And I don't know if and I know that's a bit unsatisfying, because it does require some effort on their part. And I'll give you an example that happened to me yesterday. So yesterday's workout was Isabel at Linchpin. 30 snatches for time, 135 pounds for men, 95 pounds for women. And we executed the full snatch. The squat snatch is how we went ahead and prescribed it yesterday. There are some maniacs out there, okay? Some maniacs that do Isabel in around 2 minutes. Now, I watched my wife do it in 3 minutes and 6 seconds with the full squat snatch. Some people are in 4 minutes. There was a lot of people around the 5 minutes. You could touch the 6 minute, etc., etc. But for me, 135-pound snatch, 135 pounds overhead, is a heavy weight. Even after 15 years of CrossFit, a 135 snatch is a heavy weight. That's nothing. That's not CrossFit's fault. That's my terrible neck and shoulders fault from motorcycle accidents, from dumb things that I did in the military that will forever haunt me for the rest of my life. Not CrossFit's fault. 135 overhead is just challenging for me. However, it's appropriately challenging. I'm one of those interesting individuals where, because I'm so terrible overhead, I don't have big numbers on an overhead squat or a press or a snatch, because it just stabilizing loads overhead is terrible. However, I can move a relatively high percentage of my lowly 1 rep max over and over and over again, perfectly safe. I just have to slow down a little bit. So yesterday on Isabel, 135 pounds, 30 reps. If we didn't have a set loading for that, getting back to Anne's original question, 135 for men, 95 for women, 30 squat snatches for time. If we said, okay, we're not going to assign a loading for that, we're going to say that you should do it at 55% of your 1 rep max, 30 reps as quick as you safely can. That could be just fine, but that would have shortchanged me, quite frankly. because 135 for me is over 70% of my 1 rep max. I wasn't lying to you when I said that I'm not great overhead, but I can move that 135 again and again and again and again perfectly safely, perfectly fine, and it's a fantastic workout for me. So that percentage would have completely and utterly screwed me over. So again, it gets back down to improvement of knowledge, knowing the self, knowing what's appropriate for you that day, understanding the workout, and therefore being able to make the best decision possible for you. But scaling is absolutely cool, but every now and then, if what you're doing is heavy and challenging, but it's safe, that is the key thing. It's safe, it's appropriate, and it's challenging, such as that Diane example again. There's nothing wrong every now and then with having something like Diane turn into a heavy day at a high heart rate, because it might get that athlete exactly the dose that they needed that day. And I think this can also only really come into play as a problem if your training happens to be a bit biased. So if everything's heavy all the time, well, then we've got an issue. Because then, yes, potentially getting back to what Anne was talking about could become a problem. If every workout every day is heavy and the athlete is just slogging through it, then you are never getting that intensity piece because you're just bogged down, slowed down, and having to wait all the time every day. But if your training includes days that have absolutely no external loading whatsoever, sprint days, Cindy, Mary, Nate, things about that nature, light days such as Randy, as a matter of fact, today on Linchpin, the barbell is a 75-pound barbell for men, 55 for women, so light days, moderate loading days, moderately heavy days, heavier weight days, and then true heavy days. You're getting the spectrum. And wherever you fall into that, you're going to have plenty of days to stomp the gas, and then you're going to have days that challenge you and you have to figure out whether or not you should scale. And so you're going to get the opportunity to excel. But if it's all heavy all the time, yeah, then we've got something going on where we're never really allowing that athlete to express the intensity that we probably want them to. And so that can be a bit of an issue there. Let me see if there's anything else that I wrote down some notes to make sure that when I was just rambling, I didn't get too off topic here. Okay, I think we're good. So, yeah. So it circles back to some of the classic stuff. Be patient, be smart, educate yourself, have fun, and just make good decisions. And be a student of the game is probably the best advice that I could give you. Be a student of the game. Get with people that you trust, know what they're doing, and learn from them. And that will be the best way to set yourself up, because your needs will also change from your 20s to your 30s to your 40s to your 50s to etc. to etc. And what you have between the ears is going to be critical to just having a long, fit, healthy life. So, now that I rambled for a while, let me scroll back and see if I missed anything here. Some waves. Always enjoy the waves. Waves right back at you, everybody. Let's see. Okay. Oh. FD. New York Barbell Club. Appreciate the shirt, everybody. Cheers right back at you. All right. I'm going to finish my coffee. Anne, sorry that it took me a couple weeks to get to your question. I hope that helps. And we will, of course, I'll see you back here next week.